A lone figure sits in a dark cave contemplating the flickering shadows dancing on the wall before him. He wonders if what he sees is all there is to existence. Is the world we experience with our senses the whole truth? Or is there something more, something eternal and perfect that lies beyond? Welcome to Plato's cave. And now let's start. In the dim oil lamplight of the London Underground, the walls of the tube station tunnel, shimmer and flicker with movement. People pass by, their faces lit by the glow of their mobile phones, lost in the bright fleeting images and videos flashing across the screens. If the people passing by were asked to describe what they had just seen, what would they say? Perhaps they might say they saw people walking, maybe someone reading or texting on a phone. But what was really happening? What were those people seeing? Only the shadows cast by the flickering flames of the emergency exit sign above them. Are these shadows all there is, or is there something more to what we see? That's what we'll be exploring today, because it was a question that troubled one of history's greatest thinkers. His name was Plato, and you've probably heard of him even if you haven't studied philosophy. He was one of the first great philosophers of ancient Greece, and he taught at the famous academy in Athens for 40 years. But who was Plato? Well, as far as I can tell, he was born in Athens around 428 BC. His father died when he was still young, and he grew up under the care of his mother and his stepfather, both of whom came from wealthy and noble families, so money was never a problem. You could say he was born into privilege. In fact, as a young man, he could have enjoyed a comfortable life pursuing politics or business, but instead, he dedicated himself to seeking the truth. Plato claimed that he fell in love with wisdom at a young age, and he spent much of his life searching for eternal and unchanging knowledge, which he believed lay hidden beneath the changing and deceptive world of our senses. As a young man, he became the student of the famous philosopher Socrates, and later he founded his own school, which would become the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. That's why we call it the Academy. The word comes from the name of Plato's school. In other words, Plato is a big deal. And while he wrote many philosophical works of his own, today we will focus on just one of his ideas, because this idea changed the course of Western philosophy forever. It's known as the theory of forms. Now, this is a pretty complex theory, but don't worry, I'm here to help you understand it. Let's start with a simple example. Look at this chair. This is a real chair. You can touch it, you can feel it with your hands, you can see it with your eyes. But Plato said that this chair is only a pale copy of something else, something more real, something perfect. He called this perfect thing the form of the chair. Every chair in the physical world is just a copy of the form of the chair, like a shadow or a reflection. So the physical world is full of copies, shadows, and reflections, and the real world is the world of forms. But what are forms? Well, forms are eternal, unchanging, and perfect things. They are the truest reality, and the physical world is a mere imitation of them. In other words, the physical world is unreal. At least that's what Plato thought. So the physical world is unreal. What about beauty? Is beauty real? How about justice? Is that real? Well, according to Plato, beauty and justice are real, but only as forms. That means beauty and justice exist perfectly and eternally in the world of forms. But in the physical world, beauty and justice are only shadows and reflections of their true selves. Let me say that again. Beauty and justice are real, but only as forms. Now you might be thinking, how can you have a form of beauty or a form of justice? After all, you can't pick them up or touch them. You can't see them with your eyes or feel them with your hands. So how do you know they're real? Well, Plato believed that our minds can perceive forms through reason. By using our reason, we can see that justice is more than just a physical thing. It is a perfect and eternal principle. And likewise, beauty is more than just a physical thing. It is a perfect and eternal idea. But Plato didn't just come up with these ideas. He wove them together with many other ideas in a beautiful story. He told a story about a group of people who lived in a cave. These people had been imprisoned in the cave since birth, and they had never seen the outside world. All they could see were the shadows dancing on the cave wall in front of them, but they believed that these shadows were real. One day one of the prisoners escaped from the cave. When he first emerged from the cave into the sunlight, he couldn't see anything. But as his eyes adjusted to the light, he realized that the shadows he had seen in the cave were nothing compared to the real world outside. There was so much more to reality than he had ever imagined. He tried to go back into the cave to tell the others what he had seen, but they wouldn't listen to him. They thought he was crazy. So the allegory of the cave is an illustration of Plato's theory of forms. The prisoners represent us humans. Our physical world is the cave, and all we see and touch and feel with our senses is the shadows on the wall. But there is more to reality than this, because there is the outside world, and the outside world represents the world of forms, where everything is perfect and eternal. So the story goes that the prisoner who escapes from the cave is the philosopher. The philosopher is the one who uses reason to see beyond the physical world and into the world of forms. But when the philosopher tries to tell others what he has seen, they won't listen to him. And that's why the philosopher is often seen as a misunderstood outsider. Someone who doesn't belong to the physical world, someone who belongs to the world of forms. But what about the fire in the cave? After all, the shadows are cast by the fire. And without the fire, there would be no shadows. so the fire must be real, right? Well, actually, Plato didn't think the fire was real. He thought the fire was just another thing in the cave that the prisoners had mistaken for reality. In other words, the fire was as unreal as the shadows. So what was real? According to Plato, only the sun was real. The sun was the source of all light and life in the cave, and Plato believed that the sun represented the form of the good, the highest form of all. The form of the good is what gives meaning and value to everything else. Without the sun, the cave would be dark and lifeless, and without the form of the good, our lives would be meaningless. I know this might be a lot to take in, so let me summarize what we've talked about today. Plato believed that there were two worlds, the physical world and the world of forms. The physical world is the world of our senses, and the world of forms is the world of eternal and unchanging truths. Plato believed that our job as philosophers is to escape the cave and see what lies beyond. And he believed that once we have seen the light, it is our duty to return to the cave and try to convince others to follow us. But why does any of this matter? Why should we care about Plato's theory of forms? Well, it matters because Plato's ideas changed the course of Western philosophy forever. They helped to establish the foundations of metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics, and they continue to influence philosophers today. Of course, Plato's ideas have also been criticized. Aristotle, Plato's student, disagreed with many of his ideas. He thought that Plato's theory of forms was too abstract, and that it didn't pay enough attention to the physical world. But despite the criticism, Plato's ideas remain some of the most important in Western philosophy. And as for the prisoners in the cave, I'll let you decide what you think. Would you dare to climb out of the cave if you were one of them? Or would you be content to stay in the cave with the shadows on the wall? I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please like it and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on social media. Thank you for watching.